Well, everyone, we're back with a rare one here today. Actually, a first time thingy in some certain in a certain perspective. We're here to talk about video games, but not only are we here to talk about video games, we're here to talk about video games with Mr. R. Riker7. Welcome back.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me back. I mean, not that you
It's been
excluded
a
me,
while.
but it has been a while.
Maybe we kicked you out. The
It's
so we
Australian
looked up
time,
before
man.
this. It's true. It's true. It's hard to manage, or what do you call it, organize any of the group discussions and all that stuff. We back in the day did Attack on Titan reread discussion. That was back in the day. That might still be, out of all the discussions I've ever done, the most popular one. So I'm sure there's some people that remember that. And then we looked up right before this. The last discussion we did was the Battle Royale movie night, which was in September of 2023. So not quite 3 years, but like 2.5 years. It's a bit crazy, but here we are. I had this idea because I've been playing more video games over the last few months, and especially this year. And I don't really have a way to talk about them. Or O'Leary isn't going to play video games. He played one video game last year, I think. And Mr. R works in video games, plays a lot of video games. So I thought you were the natural fit. You still work in video games, right?
I still work in video games. Yes,
There we
I'm
go.
coming up for 11 years this May in the industry.
11 years. So expertise is in the call right now. That means you must have objective opinions, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is genuinely an element of not so much objective opinions, but when I play games, if they're doing something
Insight,
interesting,
definitely.
there's insight. But I do also end up getting kind of a bit obsessed sometimes with if I see a really interesting mechanic, my programmer brain is kind of going, oh, I wonder how they implemented that, and then I start sort of speculating how I would potentially go about doing it, or just being sort of impressed knowing that it would be more difficult to do than it appears.
That's true. It's especially in, I think this is it with any medium, where sometimes you'll see particular people praising things you haven't even noticed. I think I was watching Succession recently, and I saw some comments talking about this one shot that I just didn't think about at all, where it was a boat zoom in, zoom out shot or something, and everybody that knows anything about directing or whatever was freaking out about it, and I had no idea. So I'm sure there's lots of gaming examples like this. I remember people really freaking out about the scene in The Last of Us Part 2 when Ellie takes her shirt off or something, and they were like, wow, this is incredible that they were able to do this or something. And
Yes,
I didn't know that was a difficult thing at all. So,
we actually started geeking out in our office originally, not with The Last of Us Part 2, but in Uncharted 4, a scene where they're changing. Now they do it with clever camera cuts, but yeah, removing clothing from a character is actually really difficult just because of the way it's all been sort of rigged to it. Usually you just have to use very fancy, very clever camera angles and snapping to make it look like they're taking it off, and then swap between the shirt on and off. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
yeah.
If we ever do an Uncharted video, maybe we could talk about it then.
True. Maybe one day. But yes, expertise, insight, different perspectives, perhaps. I guess another interesting thing is while we talk about the meta of this discussion before we get into the discussion, I feel like with me and Ari now, when we do our discussions, he's probably the person I do discussions with the most. We've sort of diverted in opinions. I feel like you and I generally on games have very similar opinions. So I think this will be a fun exercise if we, well, first of all, if we have different opinions, that would be interesting. And also to see if, as we continue to do this, if we divert, because I feel like at the beginning, me and Ari had similar opinions, but then we sort of negged each other in separate directions. So there's a lot of meta to this conversation, I think. But anyway, we can start. So today we're talking about Florence and Roger. The second and is in the title of the second game. These are two kind of similar games. One from 2018, which is Florence. One from a 2025 last year, which is Roger. They're both sort of picture book-esque. How would you describe these games? Picture book-esque, slightly interactive, very story-driven, short indie games?
Yeah, at first I almost thought, when I first went into it, I was like, oh, is this like a visual novel? But it's way beyond that. It's not falling into the initial... I wouldn't know how to describe it. Yeah, interactive storybook feels much more
that's
much more accurate.
That's a good descriptor.
They have a lot. They were much more similar than I mean, I didn't know anything about them going in. I deliberately didn't tell myself learn anything about them. So they were a lot more similar in how they how they present themselves as video games. So I wonder if perhaps Anne Roger took some inspiration from Florence, because obviously there's a 7-year gap between them.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're not the same studio. They're two different studios,
No.
which is
Yeah.
and Roger. I think well, actually, I won't say that yet because it kind of spoils what I think about both games. So we'll get to that in a second. I wanted to play these games because And Roger was on Kinda Funny's top 10 games of 2025. It was actually number 10. Kinda Funny is like a video game talk show company. They're not really journalists, so I wouldn't describe them that way. Former journalists, but and I like their content, and I watch it all the time. And I watched their top 10 list with I was very invested. And at number 10 was Anne Roger, and I'd never heard of it, and only a few of them have played it, but they really liked it. And then I think I saw somebody else talking about it somewhere. I know in that original top 10 they referenced that it was a game that was very similar to Florence. And because whenever I do like discussions, I like to do duo things right now. I was like, oh, that would be a great duo thingy if we ever did that. And here we are. My goodness. But the thing, everybody, whenever that people talk about Anne Roger, they're very specific in telling you, like, don't look it up, like it's about a thing, and like what it's about, and actually figuring that out is like a twist. Sadly, I was spoiled beforehand, but I think we'll have very interesting perspectives because you didn't know anything about
I
it, right?
wasn't spoiled beforehand, and oh boy, was it a twist.
True. This is going to be a fascinating discussion. But we're going to do this like the movie discussions where we're going to talk about Florence first, and then we're going to talk about Anne Roger. So let's not get into all that yet. But yes, so that's sort of my background with these games. So I vaguely knew what Florence is. I knew less about Florence. I feel like I'd heard about it previously, just not in much detail or anything like that. And the fact that they were similar, I thought they would go together well. So
Yeah,
here we are.
I think
Now,
when Florence came out, I think I remember seeing Florence winning some like not full, not like actual Game of the Year awards, but like awards within the Game of the Year sort of space. I think when it came
yeah, yeah.
out, I'd never heard of And Roger before, but Florence I was aware of as a title. Like I definitely when you mentioned it and I looked it up, I was like, oh yeah, no, I recognize that from like presumably the game space in 2018.
Yeah, it's got a very striking image where it's the very well, I wouldn't even say harsh, just very bright yellow and the girl. Um, so yeah, I think it's a bit of a striking image, but we can get into Florence more specifically, I think. So Florence came out in 2018, as I said. It's actually by an Australian studio, which I didn't know until I finished it and looked it up afterwards. Actually, no, I think I paused it a little bit in and looked it up. And then it felt very, because the game is supposed to be set in Melbourne. I've never actually been to Melbourne, but it seems very Melbourne from how people describe Melbourne. So that like made a lot of sense when I found that out, which was interesting. Um, but other than that, do you want to
Yeah.
go first? Do you want to tell us what you thought about Florence?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, yeah, Australian game developer, although it's like director Ken Wong, who I don't know how much we'll talk about because apparently he's actually a bit of a piece of shit. He'd moved back to Melbourne to start
Yes,
the
I was
studio.
reading this a little bit. Yes, he got accused of verbally abusing staff or something, I think I briefly read.
Yeah.
Um,
Didn't get
it is
fired because
interesting
presumably
because,
it's his studio.
yeah, yeah, I guess. Because I don't think the studio has made any other games. I think this was the only one, or at least when I clicked on it on Backlogged and it takes you to like the page, I think it was the only one there.
Yeah, I'm not too
So that's
familiar
interesting.
with Mountain. Let's have a look. Mountains Studio. Yeah, all they have
And
at the
also on
moment
their
on their web.
website, I think. Yeah, yeah, was just Florence, right?
Yeah, just Florence. So either they're still working on something or they're effectively defunct and it's just Ken Wong making money at this stage.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, with indie games, it's interesting because I recently played through all the what are is it Playdead? The Inside and Limbo guys,
Mm-hmm.
and like Inside was like the last game they made, and that was in like 2016. But they're supposed to be working on another game, so it's like even indie development cycles are very crazy. It seems
2016,
like.
that is wild. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
a
and yeah,
little while ago.
Ken Wong had come from Monument Valley, which is another sort of like indie darling. One of the I think believed to be one of the few good mobile phone games.
Interesting.
I say
Yeah,
this as someone
yeah.
who's not a big
'Cause,
fan of
yeah, this
mobile phone
game.
games.
Yeah, true. Me neither, really. I think this game originally came out on mobile, and then it's on the Switch and Steam now. It's not on PlayStation, the PlayStation Store or anything like that.
Yeah,
I don't think
it's
either of these games are.
a lot of its design felt like it could fit on a touchscreen very, very well. In fact, it felt almost
Yeah, it's a
more.
lot of clicking
It felt like
things.
it would have been more natural. Like obviously, with the way I was having to move my mouse around a bit when playing it, I did kind of think,
Yeah.
this probably would look good on phones.
In both games, I think whenever you have to like rotate like a
Mhm.
wheel or something, that was a little janky, I think, on mouse. Or maybe I'm just noticing no good with mouse controls, but I was like, oh, I guess that probably would be easier if you were just swinging your finger around. But
Absolutely.
true. Florence,
Yes. Sorry.
what do
Overall
you think?
thoughts. I loved it. I genuinely I thought it was really really good. I was surprised actually when I obviously went in not knowing anything, didn't know who it was by. I honestly thought when playing it that it was like an autobiographical game. Like it felt like
Yes,
everything
I
in it
kind of got that.
felt so personal that it's like this. Is this just actually just a story that some folks have come up with, or is it like actually based on the personal experiences of someone? Because it felt like it really felt like it was going to that sort of depth.
I felt very similarly about Florence in the autobiographical sense. I'm sure there's some because I think at the end there was a few credits on writing and story development, so I'm sure it's a hodgepodge of different people's experiences. But yeah, it did feel very personal. You could say the same about the next game too. Um, just briefly to backtrack, the composer for this game is also Kevin Penkin, who is like the famous like anime composer, which I thought was really interesting that he was on like this indie game. He did like Made in Abyss and other
Oh
things like
yeah.
that. So
Wow,
yeah, that's
Tower of
kind of
God.
crazy.
He's been
Yeah,
getting some he's got some good been getting some good works.
yeah. So yeah, this is like a. I think he's actually Australian too. Maybe that's probably where the connection comes from. Now that I think about
British-born
it.
Australian composer,
Anyway,
according to Wikipedia.
British born. That's no good. But we forgive
He's
him.
one of
The
us.
mm, we could both say that. The do you want to give a score?
Sure. So my score for Florence was 9 out of 10. So when I rate games generally, I generally try and think of if I was to sum up the word and what if I was to sum up a game in one word, what is it? And then I've kind of got that a sort of not quite a chart, but like a list that I go against. And for me, the word was excellent, which would normally be a 9 out of 10. Like I kind of just that's how in my head I try and go. I try and go, what's my first impression of it in a one word, and then that's what I sort of mark against for a score.
Interesting. You always do have systems for ranking stuff. I remember when you were showing how you would like rank every episode in a season and then do an overall score at the end,
Mm-hmm.
In a big chart. I remember seeing that. So yeah.
And then get very
I
angry
just say
at
whatever I.
Bacon scoring.
True. Bacon's very, very, very different method where he tries to average everything he's ever seen into like so that the average will always be 5. What's Jockey Bacon doing? And he doesn't score things right either. The things that should be 10s are friggin' 2s. So I don't know what the hell he's doing. But this isn't the Jockey Bacon bash up stream. The I just go with what does it feel like? And I think for me, I felt it was enjoyable. I don't think I connected too much with Florence specifically. I would probably go no lower than a 4 out of 5. It's very visually interesting. It's very short too. It's like what is it, like 40 minutes maybe?
Yeah, about 40
Um,
minutes.
I think actually I'll spoil this even though I'm breaking my own rules here. My first note I wrote down was let me say it exactly was I feel like Florence walked so and Roger could sprint. So I think in us doing it this way, probably makes Florence look a little bad because I think I do like and Roger much more.
So
And I think it does
I
like
liked Florence more, so
go ahead. Interesting. We'll get into this. That's good. So yeah, I think for me it kind of is in the shadow of Anne Roger a little bit in gameplay and in story and effectiveness, I think. I guess generally for anybody that's listening to this that hasn't played the games, Florence is about a young lady feeling very lonely. She seems to be a recent immigrant, or maybe not. Her mother seems to still be in China and calls her all the time. Oh, well, it could be any Asian country. I think she's an Asian lady. Actually, the text was probably Chinese now that I think about it. And she's basically lonely. She has a job. She's like abandoned her dreams of being an artist. She meets a boy. They fall in love. They move in, and then eventually they break up. And he moves out, and then she feels lonely again. But then she sort of finds an outlet in her art, which is interesting because the story seems to not be about finding love, but instead like through the machinations of life, returning to your dream, which is interesting. And I did like the little subversion there.
yeah. Well, I mean, we saw her starting to pick up the art when she was with her partner, so it's kind of like yeah. I think for me, it's kind of like yeah, the relationship was hard and it was obviously ended badly and it caused a lot of pain, but something good still came out of it. Some part of her was still sort of I'm trying to think of the word for it. I'm not very. So
Like
sort of,
dormant or
yeah,
brought
like a
out?
dormant part of her was awakened in that, and then that gave her the courage to then properly pursue it after the relationship ended. So even though, yeah, it was a bad, it was a painful moment, it ended up leading to something better for her.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like even if the relationship ends bad, it's like the better to have loved and lived than not loved at all, or the saying or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, it's I think first of all, does she paint when he's back? I thought, because isn't there the scene where she like put like all the stuff starts piling on the paint kit? Well, I guess he bought it for her,
Oh right,
so
yeah, no, sorry,
that's
yeah, I was
probably
just
correct.
reminding myself. Yeah, no, you're right. She doesn't start painting, but she begins fantasy. Yeah, she fantasizes about it. She dreams about it after he gets her the paint kit because she'd mentioned that she loved art.
Yeah, because because she has a normal job. She seems to be an accountant. Um, which is funny. I got the achievement for getting the accounting wrong like 3 times in a row or something because I didn't realize it was literally matching. So I fucked that up, which is pretty funny. Um, but yeah, but he seems to not really have a job, it seems, and he's just very directly. He's like a cellist or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so he's very directly following his dream, and she like there's like a little segment where you have to tap to push him into the university gates or whatever for the music school
Yeah.
or something. Um, so yeah, it's different trajectories and sort of how it ends up, I guess. Do you want to take us through, since you love Florence so much, do you want to take us to the particularly affecting aspects of it for you and why you like this
Yeah,
so much?
so there's a couple of things. One, I don't know, like, not that either of these really match not that either of the games really match sort of a personal experience. I don't know, I just felt I connected more with Florence. The fact that I think, like, maybe because, like, the character's named a lot earlier and there's a lot more sort of deep dive into her specifically. Uh, Obviously, there are some elements, like going through a breakup is something that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. It's certainly something I'm familiar with, so that did vibe. Plus, also, I think like I think I preferred the presentation, like the arts. I preferred the art style. I love the music in both, but I really liked Florence's and the actual gameplay mechanics. Again, not trying to compare the two too much at the moment, but I felt the way Florence engaged with its sort of gameplay mechanics were a bit more thematically strong than and Rogers. And Rogers were mechanically more interesting and more varied, but I think Florence's were more thematically in line with what was happening at the moment.
That's interesting because I think I feel the exact opposite about the gameplay elements. I definitely agree with the first part though. I think because both games, I think the main sort of emotion they draw out of me is they feel quick. Like it seems like a long period of life summarized very quickly, and like speeding it up. That obviously elicits an emotion of like time passing too quickly. That like really, I think resonates with people, or like grosses people out in the sense of like, whoa, calm down. Um, and I feel like there's like the thing when they first start dating and they take all the pictures around town and you've got to like wave the pictures to reveal them and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think was very neat. And then obviously there's like the heartbreak moment at the end where she has to take them all down. And then there's the moment even later where she finds like one of the pictures still, like she throws all of them in the trash, but then she realizes there's like one picture underneath her keyboard that she didn't see to throw out. And then she doesn't throw that one out. She like keeps it as her like business and stuff. So it's like she's taking a bit of the relationship with her. But it feels a lot like life lived in that segment. And I feel like there's a lot of it sort of invokes relatability and FOMO, I think, in ways that are really interesting. There's also, because they do play with the pointlessness of it for bits in Florence, but then they end up having a more positive view on the relationship at the end. And also, especially at the beginning, there's a lot of loneliness that's probably very relatable to most people that I like too. So yeah, and I think that's obviously different to the emotions Anne Roger attempts to evoke. So that's interesting. Yeah, the the breakup stuff is interesting. I like, so with the, do you want to go into specifics about like the mechanics you like? Are you talking about like the conversation stuff and
Yeah.
because I do like that. There's a great
Yeah.
moment where you're like arguing and you want to go fast to like win the argument. It like really evoked that emotion in me that I like
Yeah,
really
I also
that I
liked
liked
as
a
I
lot.
mean I liked as well the first sort of subtle bit that I noticed that I did really enjoy is when they're having their first date, and with each as the conversation passes, the jigsaw pieces become easier and easier to put together as the conversation
Yes.
becomes more and more natural. And I was just like, chef's kiss, no notes, excellent stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
I definitely agree with that. There were
and
some
then
other aspects of the like that. I don't know
during
if I can remember.
sorry, and during the argument as well,
Oh,
the shape design changes as well. It goes from these softer, rounder shapes to
yes.
like these more jagged, harder to fit together shapes as well. Again, yeah, it's cool. Like I did like that element. I liked the sort of the clicking the sort of push. Uh,
Yeah,
and
that was cute.
we mentioned the end bit as well. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place here. Like how it sort of started to trail into that sad bit, and then sort of uplifted itself again. I think that is nice. That is like the sort of very positive thing to come out of it, like about how it's not it's not the be all and end all, and you do have to sort of moving on is a very important part, but acknowledging your grief is still valid.
Yeah, it very much feels like I guess this is back to the life lived or whatever thing is like it does feel like the up and downs of life where it's like, oh, lonely at the beginning, oh my god, you found a relationship, it feels like great. Then like, oh, you kind of get because this is part of the game too where it's like, oh, you start to get comfortable and then you start to argue and it's like the honeymoon period into the after part because which is actually interesting because both games have a little brushing the teeth segment. But there's multiple brushing the teeth segments in Florence where it's like, and also the alarm going off where it shows the progress and how things have changed. And like I think the first time your alarm goes off when they're in a relationship, like they get up immediately, but like the second time they like do sleep in for a bit, so it's like
Hmm.
they're less eager to get up and be around each other and stuff like that, and that sort of stuff, mirroring stuff. Another little one that I liked was when you had to clean up his room, um, which was interesting because you had to like play from his perspective. I thought, and I thought that was
Yeah.
an
I
interesting
didn't like that
mechanic.
he had to put away the little geeky statue. Like that was fine. That didn't
That's
need cleaned
true.
up.
I didn't clean it up, and I was wondering why it wasn't like letting me progress. And then I kept clicking on stuff, and then eventually I clicked on that, and I was like, oh, cool. You had to get rid of the statue to put the plant there because the ladies don't like your anime figures. Everybody.
So,
Um,
so lame.
that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the actual few
Um,
notes I had because I remember that happened and I was like, "Fuck off! That's not cool." I think I put that statue. I think I put when you moved in and you have to pick which things you want to keep when you move in, which is also an interesting sort of thing because I actually spent a bit
yeah.
of time there trying to make it look nice and look like a layout that was felt like a shared environment. And I think I did put that little action figure anime statue thing on the thing because it's like, no,
Yeah.
he gets to have this.
He's growing in self confidence now that they know each other, and
Yeah,
that's why the statue.
Krish can like anime.
Uh,
It's cool.
true. Um, oh, there was something like that too. Oh, there was another achievement I got where I made sure to put both family photos up there, and
Yes,
that
I
gave
got
me an
that one as
achievement. I
well.
thought that was cute. Yeah. I
Uh,
don't think I put the figurine up there though.
Pretty sure I did. Maybe I didn't. I put the what did I put? I put the teddy bear. Oh no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Sorry, I didn't. I put a different figure. I put the statue of Ganesh up. Sorry, I think I did consider the anime statue, but I put the statue of Ganesh because I had seen that in other places.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, and then you can also do it in the kitchen too.
Yeah, the kitchen one
You can like mix the stuff
was
up.
an interesting one. I didn't really know what to go with for that.
No, yeah, I don't even think I recognize what most things were. Shows how much I cook,
But
I
it's
think.
interesting. None of it matters for the gameplay, but it felt like it mattered when I was doing it.
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting note about like, is it just worth it for the in the moment expression of it, or does it lose points for it not being part of the like resolution or something? I know people complain about things like that in like Telltale games where it's like, oh, you don't really, it doesn't really matter which one you choose, like, or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, so I don't think,
The Telltale one's an interesting one because I get why they do things because they obviously can't have all this branching stuff, but
yeah,
or they can't have the
I
branching
think
as
it's probably
significant as it would suggest. So they kind of just pop that up to make you think it's like a psychological exercise, which
yeah.
you can argue the effectiveness of it.
Yeah, I don't think it applies too much to this game, but it
No.
is a little interesting thing. Um, But true, I enjoyed all this moment. I think there was a lack of because I never felt in the moment that this was going to be a new favorite game for me. I don't think so. I think there was a little bit of a disconnect. Um, I think both, and just the structure of these games is very good at like eliciting emotions. Where it's like I don't know. Maybe this is why I'm partial to manga. Is like why I like this type of thing, like over anime or something. Because I like the freeze frame like and pausing on a moment and like
Hmm.
soaking it in, and the quick succession of those, which both the games obviously use as their like picture book esque, and there's limited animation in certain parts. I think that really helps moments like pinpoint moments resonate a lot. So I think
Yeah.
it definitely was emotionally engaging in the moment. I don't know how much is stuck with me or is too um I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It hasn't stuck with me or affected me too much, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put it as one of my favorites. I don't actually have a list of my top games of 2018, so I actually wouldn't even need. I'd probably need to go and backlogged and filter it and see. So it would definitely be high up, but even if I give a game a 9, that could potentially put it on the top spot, on the top 5. It might not. Like, I can be quite generous with a lot of games, but a 9 doesn't necessarily mean that it has to stick with me. It just means it was very, very high quality. Like, if I give a game a 10, it has to stick. It's something that would definitely stick with me. Some 9s can, some lower score games can for all sorts of different reasons, but yeah, no, I get what you mean.
yeah,
Like, it's a
definitely.
cool. I'm glad I played it. I kind of wanted to play it ever since I first saw it. I just never got round to it.
Yeah,
So.
it's oh, I had something to say about scoring, but I think I forgot. I was just gonna make a joke about how this is probably the only game I've played from 2018. I think so. That's cute. I never finished God of War 2018, so that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. I stopped playing games pretty significantly in 2017, I think, and
Mm.
then kind of till recently. Between 2017 and like 2024, the only games I played were Game Freak games and Naughty Dog games, and there was only one Naughty Dog game in that time. So
Okay,
I
yeah.
was
So
just Pokemoning it up over here.
2018 was actually a stacked year. So because 2018
That's
had
true. It was
it had some of the it
Red
had
Dead too, right?
well, it had the Hollow Knight DLC as well. Hollow Knight must have been 2017. It had
Yeah,
Celeste, which is incredible.
true.
Dark Souls
I
remastered.
know.
Yeah, God of War. Uh, Forza Horizon 4, a game I may or may not have worked on, was very good.
True.
I hear. Uh,
The people they love Forza Horizon.
yeah, there
Um,
were some good games in 2018.
I believe you. I'm sure there's good games every year. Um, Maybe I'll play some more 2018 games in the future. Um, did you have a lot of other stuff to talk about with Florence?
I mean, I have a couple of things that I noticed again I quite liked.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So obviously when they're having their argument, the fact that the bed puzzle you can't fit that together, and it's like the only puzzle you can't. It's so
True, that was
that's
a great
really
one.
good. And also when they're starting to go through like a rough phase, I think the chapter's called erosion. It's when it's a second time you have to color in the cello scene. Uh, and it's a lot
Yes,
messier and it's
and
much
it's
harder
different.
to finish. And also it pops up as as advancing through it really quickly, as opposed to the previous one where you had to fill in the whole thing, but it was pretty easy to do, and then it let you advance. So it just shows
Yeah,
like
yeah, that was
the
cute.
how sort of messy and complex the feelings are, and how it's easy enough to just give up, which kind of relates to Chris's sort of falling out of I think or struggling passion with the cello at that stage.
Yeah, yeah, it could just be a general like things getting not old. What would the proper word be like or familiar, and it's like
Hmm.
it's losing its grace or its warmth.
Yeah.
Because it's like really gray, and he's like all disheveled and stuff now, and um, true. Another interesting difference is that that Florence has like 12 chapters, I think, right? Whereas Anne Roger only has three, um, which is a weird little
Hmm.
choice. It doesn't really amount to anything, but it's just interesting that
Yeah.
they chose very different directions of much shorter, much snappier, and a lot more for Florence, and the opposite for Anne Roger.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean that is yeah, very, very noticeable. Oh, I've just seen on Wikipedia here. Wong chose the name Florence. She was designed to be Chinese Australian, whose parents picked an old-fashioned
yes.
name for their daughter when they immigrated. Oh, speaking of the
Oh yeah,
parents,
interesting.
something else that just has come to mind as well. Another thing that I quite liked was obviously twice in the game your mum phones Florence and she's just like, you're trying to sort of just get through it and just be like, yeah, I'm fine, okay, yeah, I know, yeah, whatever. But then after they break up, she phones her mum and immediately the mum's like, is everything okay?
Yeah, that
And,
was cute.
and
Yeah,
that's
it's
like,
changing up.
and again, that was like a sort of a moment that affected me, hit me sort of a bit personally because I've literally been in a situation similar to that a number of years ago. So it was kind of like, oh wow, that is like spot on to how that sort of parental relationship can function. It was great.
Yeah,
big fan.
It's like you. It's a selfishness you allow towards your parents that you probably wouldn't allow to other people, or it's like you kind of just ignore them and are annoyed by them, but then they're like the first person you call or whatever when something goes bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it like makes you. I know it's this is a very different thing, but I think it's the same principle. It's like when whenever people are dying in stories or whatever, and they're like they start calling out for their mother or something. It's like in crisis, you like revert to being a kid.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I think that's similar for that. I was thinking about that because I was watching Dunk and Egg today. My goodness.
What a show.
True, Florence. True.
You should have me on for that.
We don't have to go.
Just saying.
We could do it next week if you want. It might be depends if we can schedule it, but we can talk about that. Oh, did you have other notes for Florence?
No, that's kind of the end of the sort of the additional notes that I put together. Again, I just find it like a really charming. I loved, the color palette, the art style, presentation, just all of it, and I just hadn't seen a game that sort of like obviously I said the closest thing I'd played to an interactive story was a visual novel, but they're much more simplistic gameplay wise. All the ones I've played are anyway. It's quite heavily, it's quite easily templated because of just how Ren'Py has been put together. But this game was made in Unity, and I know Unity obviously supports a lot of 2D stuff, but the way everything transitions so smoothly, it was so nicely put together. When I think of like the bigger game engines, I think of a lot of the jank that goes with them and a lot of the ubiquity, especially around I guess UI elements, and I guess a lot of this stuff, this game is kind of like all UI in that sense. So I mean that's maybe a bit not quite right, but yeah, this is just my sort of brain going like, I would not, thinking about how each little bit of it was so unique and how much work that would have been. Yeah, I just thought they did a really cool job, and I think achieving it in the tech was cool. I guess 2018 Unity was probably a bit nicer than modern Unity. I haven't used Unity in like since university, so I wouldn't really know what it's like to work in these days.
The politics behind the different game engines, I have no idea. I didn't know. I've heard of Unity before. I know what Unreal Engine is. I know what Decima is, just because that's like the Horizon one that Kojima uses. I think Naughty Dog has its own engine, I believe.
They do.
Other than that, I'm out of engines, I think. I'm sure you can name 50 of them or something. On another thing you said is I did want to ask you if you had played other games that were like this, but it seems like that answer is no, which is interesting.
Not really, not ones that come to mind. I think I watched a stream of a streamer playing like a make your own storybook kind of game. It wasn't quite the same. It wasn't like the sort of linear story experience. It was more like almost like a puzzle game where it's like, okay, it's like you need to engineer these scenarios, but it's all presented like a storybook, and you pick bits and you pick different parts and you build this storybook of engineering certain scenarios in it. But and I thought that was really cool when I saw that. Like they're not the kind of games I would play a lot of, but I really appreciate how they're made. I really appreciate how they're put together because it's so polished. It's so nice. There's no jank to it at all. And like when you get like bigger games, and even some other indie games that are made on budgets, you see jank either through lack of resources or through the game being so huge they literally can't cover everything. But you don't see that with this type of game, and that's nice. It's a rarity.
It is. I was just noticing on the And Roger Wikipedia, they have the genre and they say it's an adventure game, which is interesting because that's a genre I have like no experience in. The Innuendo Studios YouTube channel has a bunch of videos about adventure games specifically, so that's about the extent of my interaction with that. Have you played many adventure games? Do you think
Uh,
these games are adventure games
you
in
know
that
what?
sense?
I can understand. Yeah, I can kind of see that to a degree. And Roger maybe more so. And Roger maybe more so. Sorry, because there was it's a bit more
Yeah,
it's a bit
gameplay
more it's a
intensive.
bit more
Yeah.
gameplay, a bit more mechanical, as I mentioned earlier. Florence, it's hard to say. I honestly don't know if I would class Florence as an adventure game. I would class And Roger. I could see And Roger being one though. Actually, funnily enough, on
That is
Wikipedia, the
true.
genre for Florence is minigame.
Is minigame. Yeah, I just reopened it. That's I guess because you do different things. Though I guess there is kind of a central mechanic in Anne Roger of like the ball
Yeah, and there are sort of
thing. You
puzzles to
might be kind
solve.
of
Like I think you can fail. It's like one of the bits in I guess we're kind of talking about And Roger now is when you're trying to sneak out the house in chapter 1. I think it's chapter 1. You can I think
yes,
I got an
you can fail.
achievement for not alerting the
Yeah, I
man.
failed once.
So I
So yeah,
guess
you definitely can.
presumably what would happen is the story still advances. So I guess to a degree there is sort of like an element to that, but it's it's
No,
a
I
bit
think
of
it took you back
oh
in
okay
Anne
yeah,
Roger. You had
it's
to
a bit of a
restart that
far cry
sequence.
from the point and click adventure games, which is obviously what I think popularized the genre a
Yeah.
lot. But it's still I can still see where that classification comes from. But I think part of it is like I have a bit of an issue with some video game classifications when we define genre anyway, because we try and define genre by the mechanics rather than by the emotions that it's trying to invoke. Like, just to take a recent example, Claire Obscure is a French game, but it's classed as a JRPG because of how it mechanically plays
Yeah, yeah.
out. And Dark Souls plays like a Western RPG, but it's made in Japan. It's just like those are
So
examples.
yeah.
Fallout 3 could technically be called a first person shooter, even though you wouldn't necessarily, because it's got first person shooting sections. Like, would we define on these really strange terminology because we haven't really adopted a better way of classifying genres of video games?
Yeah, I'd never thought about this in my life, but like genres as emotions is like kind of true, right? Because horror makes you horrified and
Mm-hmm.
thrillers thrill you or something. I've never even considered that in my whole entire life.
But I
Is
think,
pop
like,
music pop because it pops you? Because you
I,
go, whoa, that's
I,
fucking crazy.
I actually I don't know, but like when I think of like
Or is it
films,
because it
obviously,
stands for popular?
I think it's because it stands for popular. But like when I think of
Yeah.
films, obviously, like it's probably easier to classify a genre in a film because that's a linear experience that's being presented to you.
Yeah, of
Whilst with
course.
games, the experience requires you as well. So it's like how do you bridge that gap? It's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't have an answer for it. It's just it's an
Yeah.
interesting thought process. Like
There's also game genres that are like meta-referential, where it's like Metroidvania is a genre, and it's just like two games.
yeah,
But
or
like you can't, like
roguelikes.
everybody kind of understands what that means. Yeah. Or Souls-like or anything like
Yeah.
that.
But then you've also
Um,
got like if we were to go down the emotional route, for example, what would you class Doki Doki Literature Club as? Because it's basically a horror
yeah,
game, but calling it a horror game spoils the horror twist.
yeah, the whole thing.
So
Yeah.
instead,
The
it's kind of basically a
I
visual
guess people
novel
would
with a
probably call it like
twist.
a visual novel.
Well, it is yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean that's what its genre is. But again, a visual novel is just a way of it's just a mechanical
Yeah.
presentation. It's just like a boiling it down to basically its mechanical presentation. It's an interesting discussion.
Also, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because yeah, if you were to just like describe it, it's like, oh yeah, what's your what genre is this game? And you actually went with a more sort of emotional genre, they'd be like, okay, that tells me nothing about what experience I'm going to get because the experience for each game's experience is slightly different. Whilst the experience for a film is you sit and you watch it, game you engage with in hundreds of different ways. So
Yeah, and it depends if we're trying to classify things or if we're trying to describe things, right? Because to call like Call of Duty
a
what
drama.
emotion would it be? An exciting game versus a much better descriptor for you to understand what it is first person shooter, because then you can like visualize it. But an exciting game could be anything. It could be a jumping a platformer or something like that. Interesting genres.
The only genre that really has
Who
succeeded
knows?
at that in general is the horror games, or I guess we call it survival horror. So I guess even that couldn't escape it. We didn't
Yeah.
just call it horror; we called it survival horror. But I mean, like survival horror
Yeah.
games are all so different from each other.
That's Definitely true. It's interesting because there would be games you would just describe as horror and not survival horror, right? Um, I guess Doki Doki Literature Club would kind of be like that. Um, but true. I haven't played or experienced much horror anything, but people call like the Last of Us games like survival horror sometimes, which seems. I mean, I guess there's like jump scares sometimes and scary moments in the
I'd feel
dark
like
with
it falls more
crazy
under
creatures.
action horror, if anything. Similar to like Dead Space, which is like action horror. But
Interesting,
again, it's
because
also
actually a good
it's so subjective and so just, there's not really any clear line
murky.
there.
Yeah, because I was gonna say like you would never describe like Uncharted as a survival horror game, but that and like Last of Us and Uncharted have more crossover than probably The Last of Us and other survival horror games. But then even then in Uncharted 1 there is that scary point where you're like in the with all the monsters in the
Yeah,
dark or whatever.
the what is it
Is that a
the
survival horror element?
what is it the immortal mutated Nazi zombies in the
Yes. Yes, I think so.
that was
Or are
that
they
was
Spanish and they just found the Nazi ship? I can't remember.
well no
But
because
there's like two groups.
the Spaniards were there first.
That's right. Yep, you're definitely right on that point. Because yeah, it's the Spanish gold that the Nazis found, and there's like a projector playing a thingy. Anyway, Uncharted's cool. That's the second time we brought it up today. That's awesome. Do we want to get into and Roger more specifically now?
Yeah, let's jump in. We got some good coverage on Florence. Our discussion on Florence was about
We
as
did,
long
I
as the
think.
game was.
Sure. And we got some genre discussion in there. We got all the video game best hits here. Do you want to start again? I'm interested in general
So
thoughts.
I
On,
said
on
I
Anne
said I
Roger.
liked Florence more, but it wasn't like a huge jump. Like Anne Roger is I gave an 8 to, so it's a great game. Like I liked what it was going when I played the first chapter. My immediate thought was, now I obviously went in with no things, and my immediate thought was, oh my god, if we just had like a child abuse story, and is then chapter 2 going to be
Yes.
about I then assumed the direction was going to be about the character processing that abuse. And then as we went through, and I was like, oh no, this is very different. And I thought that was cool. I did think that was really cool. It definitely I got hoodwinked by it. I did not see the twist coming, and then when it hit, I'm like, oh wow, this is actually it's pretty deep. It didn't emotionally resonate with me, and maybe that's because I haven't really known anyone going, dealing with like dementia or anything like that. So maybe that's why it didn't hit as personally, because there's like more elements I could personally relate to in Florence. And both these kind of games, I think, are the kind of games where if you have any kind of personal resonance with you, that will hit harder.
Yeah.
There was one thing I thought
guess
was a
my
bit.
read is okay.
I was gonna say there was one bit I thought was a bit weird though, and that was at the very start where it was doing like all the username and password entry stuff and messing you around at that. I didn't really get that, but
I like that part at the beginning. I think it's just supposed to be like things your perception of things is not like real, and it's sort of starting down that track.
I guess it just, even like having played it, when I played it, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, it's kind of quirky, because I didn't know what the game was. But then at the end, I kind of came out of it thinking like that bit felt a bit more detached from the rest of the game. Was all that was it.
I think it's like an immediate like form thing, like obviously those are all things that like games make you do sometimes at the beginning, and it's like, oh, pretending to make you have to put in an email or and choose all these other things and stuff like that. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of kooky and meta, which is interesting because I guess in a sense it doesn't really jive with the rest of the game. I sort of see where you're coming through on that. But true, I agree. There was something else you said that I wanted to comment on, but in terms of the dementia thing, so yeah, that is the thing I knew. Before that, I had known that the premise was sort of like a young girl wakes up and there's a guy that she doesn't recognize on like her couch. And because of the way people talk about this game, where it's like, oh, it's like a heart-wrenching story and it's truly scary. And I think the way Tim from Kind of Funny like described it was like, it's something you hope you never have to deal with or nobody around you ever has to deal with. And all of that directly apply and when I saw that, and I think they explained that very beginning part, I was like, oh, it is like going to be a sexual assault story, which is not weird. It's like interesting, and like odd, and it's like, well, that is like a thing. Like I could see a game about that being very trauma laden and get a bunch of awards and stuff like that. sadly, I was spoiled on the twist that it was a game about a girl with dementia.
I think that is a shame, because I think that does make so much. That does make so much of what it is. I think like it's.
Yeah, it helps me because I kind of treated this in that sense like a replay almost at the beginning, and it's funny because I have come away with this more positive than you, I think, which is interesting. Because the twist element really isn't part of it for me. I think the emotional resonance is much stronger. And I don't think it's necessarily because of personal relatability either. Well, actually, I think it is. I think it's just not to do with the dementia aspect. My grandmother on my mother's side did have dementia, but I wasn't very close to her, so it's not like I have too much personal stake in that. The thing about I think the love aspect of this game really resonated with me, and I will say something, Mr. R. For the first time in like 5 years, I cried at a piece of media. I cried at the end of this game. Can you believe it?
Wow. I didn't. I have cried at some media before. I thought Florence might have got me, but it didn't quite. I guess maybe I wasn't quite in the emotional state. I feel like I did have more of a, I think, visceral emotional reaction to Florence again than I did to And Roger. But I did definitely, when I was playing And Roger, I did feel something. I'm not a heartless monster. I did feel something when I got to the end.
I think on my most recent stream, in fact, I had said something about like nothing's gonna make me cry ever again. That's like stupid, bro. And actually, another little ironic thing about this is I think the last thing I cried at, unironically, was the Hanji episode where she died in Attack on Titan, which we would have discussed right afterwards. So,
oh man,
it must be you that does this to me.
Clearly. No, it's good. Like, it's good to have a good, like, positive masculinity message for all the young men out there. Having a good sob at least once a month. It's good for you. It's good for the heart, good for the soul. Makes you feel better.
It's also extra funny because I was laughing about this idea also in our Ava discussions, because I was doing the funny bit where I was pretending to hate Shinji and telling him to get in the robot and calling him a pussy all the time. So this would also be very funny if you cut that up and put this next to this. And everybody was laughing at me for that. Anyway, all this is funny. I think when you're in a relationship, like the scariest thing in the world is like something happening to them. And actually, there's a bunch of stuff I've consumed recently that have like hit on this. So, have you ever seen Succession?
I haven't. It's
Okay.
I'm familiar. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, I won't spoil it, but the episode I watched recently, I'll just say it's season 4, episode 3. It's like a big one, and it's a big one about death. And it was a very weird, not weird. I keep going to say call things weird today. It's a very descriptively real, like gross, like finding out somebody's dying right now that you didn't expect type story. And then also, if you follow me on Twitter, you might see this on the media checklist. I was watching a documentary about the Paris terrorist attacks in 2015, and specifically the episode about the theater one, where it's just like 100 people dying in this theater from just getting shot, and like these testimonies from these people who were in there, and like they're with like their wives and girlfriends, and they're like trying to protect them and stuff like that. So I think I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and it's like when you're in a relationship, like the worst idea, like you have nightmares, like you wake up like they died in a car crash and you didn't get to see them or something, and it's like also I'm in like a long distance relationship, so the idea of that happening like far away and you're nowhere near it and you can't do anything and things like this is like a very big existential fear. I think it's a very interesting point in your life where you stop like imagining. Like, I feel like if I was a little kid and I was like 13 and I imagined a scary scenario where like you get jumped or there's a terrorist attack or anything like that, there's a car accident, I feel like you always like imagine it's like with your mother or your little brother or something. And there's a very much a switch at some point where it stops becoming about them and it does become about like your partner.
Yeah, no, I get you.
And so I think this game very much hits on that emotion of like a lifelong sort of love story that climaxes in like probably the worst of any scenario, which is like them kind of forgetting you and them kind of being there but kind of not, and also like the little inconveniences of them being sick and like you having to clean up after them, and like the difficulties of vows you would make to like always look after somebody, or there's the wedding vows in the game, and it's like the frustrations the guy clearly has with that, and that gets into like a hitting thing later on and stuff like that. And I think I cried at the very end, the very last part, which is the it's kind of to do with the Bible quote, but it's like she's kind of losing it a little bit, and she like wants to have this dinner party when they go home, and she's going to cook for everybody, and cooking's like a reoccurring thing throughout the game. And she has the thing where she's like, oh, I want like him to come, and when she says him, she usually means her husband, but she doesn't always realize she's talking to her husband about him. And like the husband very like, because he always kind of is getting a little frustrated with her, which I assume is very like is something that would definitely happen if you had to deal with this all the time, no matter how like obviously bad that is. It's a very natural reaction I think you would have in these scenarios. But him like not in that moment, and instead being like asking her in sort of a very cutesy romantic way, like, I want to sit next to you, and then it cuts out, and then it cuts to the Bible quote. That's when I freaking started crying. So that's sort of it's very interesting, because the quote is also, it's a Bible quote. It says, and now these three remain: faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. And it's cute because the dude has clearly given up on his faith and has clearly given up on hope, and all he really has left is the love for his wife, basically, who he has to look after. Like, his faith isn't going to save him from this like nightmare scenario he's living in, and there's no hope of it getting better. He says that like when he tries to give her the pill or whatever, and she's like, and he says like, oh, we can't make you better, but we can like slow the process down or something. So there's like all he has, and that's like all he can rely on for like happiness or life or anything. And that's very cute, him embracing that at the very end.
Yeah, that is very cool. I hadn't actually thought as deeply into that, but no, you're absolutely spot on. Like, obviously I could see like faith and faith being a very sort of big part of this throughout, especially towards the end with
it is interesting, that aspect, because usually I wouldn't like any sort of Christian shit in a narrative, but I did really like it, as I give Evangelion a 10 out of 10, but obviously that's very different to this. It seems like a very what do you call it, not enthusiastic, but a very, there's a word that exactly sums this feeling up. There's a very, we'll go with enthusiastic instead, like Christian thing to this, I think. Or maybe not. Maybe the thing is like he's asking God for help, but God isn't helping him. But I don't think so. I think the Bible verse at the end is supposed to be like you still find solace in like the words of the Bible or something.
Yeah. It's very interesting because I wouldn't really be. I'm an atheist. I'm not a huge particular fan of organized religion in general, and like, but at the same time, I thought it was very nicely handled. And if it is again, like, I don't know how close this is to like a personal story or not.
Yeah.
Japanese.
I don't know anything about the development of this game, so yeah, I haven't looked into that at all. It's also like the Bible quote thing is like so cliche and something. It's like, we all saw Pulp Fiction, right? They did it in a cool way there, and now we never need to see another Bible quote or something. It feels like almost the epitome of like cringe or trying to be textual or something.
Yeah,
but it definitely worked here for me.
It's interesting as well because it's a Japanese developer. And
really?
Yeah, Japanese independent developer.
It is Evangelion. My goodness.
But like, Christianity does have quite a significant presence in Japan, doesn't it? I may be
a little bit.
Wrong.
See, I used to think it was more, but then I got corrected on this at one point, and it's actually like 3% of the population.
Oh, really? You know what? I know that obviously not the same country. Like, I know it's very popular in. Obviously, it's got a very high sort of popularity in like South Korea, but in Japan as well. I know that there is. I always thought there was quite a maybe it's just a small but very dedicated subset of Japan.
It's in a lot of these fucking anime. I'll tell you what, they seem to like that. Though Shintoism obviously very much is.
Yes.
It's like, let's look it up. Religious demographics, Japan. Oh my god, I can't type in the dark. We've got 45 to 50% Shinto, and Buddhism 46 to 47. And then Christianity, it says 1 to 2%. Because at some point I definitely thought it was like 30, but that seems to not be true.
Yeah, that is wild. I guess as well, maybe it felt different because I guess maybe Japan's approach to Christianity is just very different to what kind of the Western, depiction of Christianity is at this stage. Like,
You do get the vibe sometimes that they like respect it like it's like Lord of the Rings or something, where they think it's like really cool to reference it, but they don't necessarily like believe it or something. That's definitely the vibe I get from like Ava. Like they think the imagery is really cool, or Devilman or something like that. But they're not like, oh yes, we love Jesus. He's a cool guy. We definitely think he was real type thing.
Yeah, it doesn't
but it's
bring with it the same obsession that we get in like the UK or the USA, for example. I don't know what it's like in Australia.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Australia is kind of a oddly non-religious country, I think. But yeah, it's like there's no like genre of like if you think about like Western Christian something, it's like Christian rock or like I don't know, one of those funny like Christian movies or whatever about the evil atheist professor or something. I wouldn't describe this or Evangelion as that. Another interesting thing about the studio here is that they do have one other game, but it seems to be mostly a puzzle game. It's called In His Time, and it came out in 2022, I believe. Enter the hauntingly beautiful shadow world of In His Time, a 2D puzzle-solving adventure game. Where you will meet Ollie and join him solving puzzles throughout each step of an emotional journey of growth and self-discovery. So maybe there's a bit of a story there. I don't know, actually.
Maybe a future
game.
I've
never heard anybody talk about that one.
Also, funnily enough, did you see that And Roger was published by Kodansha?
Yes, I did see that. Kodansha is the Attack on Titan manga company, right?
Yes, they are the publishers of Attack on Titan. Which is interesting as well, because if it weren't for Attack on Titan, I believe, now this may be just me, this may be me hallucinating something that I read on the internet once, but if it weren't for Attack on Titan, Kodansha possibly could have gone under. So
yeah, it's like the most popular thing. I'm pretty
so if it weren't for Attack on Titan, we wouldn't potentially have And Roger.
True, it's a little what do you call it? Cause and effect. Thing.
Yeah.
They do have on their main wiki. They have like all their magazines. They got their. Like, I think they have, oh no, I thought that was Nisekoi, but it's just a different word that almost looked like that. So never mind. But yes, they're the Attack on Titan people. That's kind of crazy.
Something
else. I
else.
didn't know they published video games, but here we are.
Me neither. I didn't know. Something else that has come up. Something you were it relates to something you were saying earlier about like that point where you shift. Sorry, I'm going way back. I'm going back a bit here. Where you shift from like thinking about your parents in the situation to thinking about your partner. And I wonder if perhaps the reason the resonance was so different here is because you're currently in a relationship and I'm currently single. And obviously,
perhaps, yeah.
The result, Florence is a story of a character who, does go through the breakup. And then obviously I'm not saying that you're currently going through the same situation to And Roger, but maybe that's how that relation comes in. That's how that relation comes in a bit more. Because it's about an active relationship whilst Florence is about the start and end of a relationship.
Yeah, there were certain parts of I guess it definitely was the relationship period that were very relatable. Like the traveling around the city thing, where like you've probably lived in a city for a long time, but you've never actually gone and done any of the things like a tourist would do there, and like doing that when you have a partner is like a thing you would do. So that was a very relatable moment in Florence. But outside of that, that is kind of true. Oh, an interesting thing is I didn't say my rating at the beginning of this, and I honestly don't know what I would rate it. It would probably either be a 9 or a 10. I just haven't. I don't know. I can't. It's kind of a. This happens sometimes where you. Go ahead.
I think that's fair. It can be really difficult. Again, I kind of basically go off the vibes, like my one-word thought at the end, and sometimes I'll rethink it and overthink it a bit, and then sort of like I was umming and erring between an 8 and a 9 for And Roger for ages. But when I sort of really sat down and thought, I was like, what is the one word I would use to describe it? And it was just like, it's great. It's a great game. Go play it. That's kind of what cemented it. But yeah. Because Florence just had that little bit of extra sort of emotional resonance with me, I think that's why it's higher than And Roger.
Yeah. There was something else that I consumed relatively recently where I had to like figure out if it was a 10. And since then, it might literally be the movie Polite Society. And then I think that's definitely a 10 in my head, but I know I struggle with that for like a month after watching it. So I don't know. And Roger could go down that period.
At the end of the day,
it's almost like go ahead.
I was going to say, at the end of the day, scores are completely subjective and basically completely pointless as well. So that's the one bit of credit I'll give Bacon when he keeps saying that scores are meaningless. So it's whatever internal criteria you use, unless it's Bacon's internal criteria, it's a justifiable way to score something.
True. I just say a 10 for me is probably something that like you bug everybody around you to like consume, and like you'd get excited if they consumed it. Though I don't know. Sometimes there's like a movie that you think is an 8 that you keep pestering people to watch. So maybe that's not even true, but
I mean, I had
I
that
don't know. I
originally
would
when
tell
I
everybody
saw
to play and Roger definitely.
the funnily enough, talking of movies in that, it was the Tetris movie, which is such a weird sort of movie
Interesting.
to talk about. But I originally scored it like an 8, and then suddenly by the end of the month, I'd watched it 4 more times in that 1 month, and was telling every one of my friends to go watch it. And I'm like, no, okay, this has actually just become one of my favorite films, and it is a 10 now. I originally gave it an 8, and then it wouldn't leave my head, and it just kept annoying. So the score did change over time, and that happens with games too.
That is. Keep going, keep going.
I said that happens with games too. I'll play a game and I'll give it a score, and then I'll play it again, a time later, and that score will either increase or lower. Like, I'm looking at my 10 out of 10 list on Backlogged literally at this moment. One of the games in there is literally a joke game, but it's a game that me and my friends play when we do our 24-hour charity marathon. It's the last game we play each time, where we're absolutely exhausted, and it is a terrible game. But it's a 10 out of 10 because it's some of the most fun I've ever had playing a game, because of the environment in which I play it.
It's like I feel a very similar way about the great Crash of the Titans. Obviously, the best Crash Bandicoot game.
Obviously,
because it has I play it all the time, constantly, and oh, what a game! But it is a very similar thing of it. Like, maybe it's not actually that good, but like, obviously, it's a 10 out of 10.
I mean,
also,
this game in question, Fistful of Frags. Like, if I was to give it my objective rating, it would be like a 2. It's terrible, but I love it so much. It's so stupid.
Crash of the Titans is great, so I will not be saying a similar thing about that. But that's actually a secondary ENT video I have to make soon, is me ranking all the mainline Crash games. So everybody should look forward to that. I did just kind of spoil what number 1 would be, though. One thing you said in there briefly was advocating for rewatches. So I'm a big fan of that. And also a very important thing in considering this rating conversation is I finished And Roger like 1 hour ago. So it's still, what do you call it? Permeating. It's still not facilitating. It's still fermenting in my mind.
Yeah, it's still
so
fresh in the mind.
It wouldn't be me to leave something to the very, very last moment.
Wait till we pick a bigger game, and then it'll suddenly become more of a problem to leave it to the last minute.
True. No, I think that the fact that they were both so short is definitely allowed me to internally leave them to the last moment, thinking I could get through them quickly. So with a bigger game, I think I might be better, but also sometimes I'd just be a lion. So who knows if what I'm saying is true right now. But true, we kind of circled right to the end. The other notes I have down here is the hitting thing, which I think is really interesting. I think that's kind of a very interesting element to introduce. Because it does cast a lot of, I guess, shame onto that character, and it's like a whoa, that's like kind of a thing I didn't expect. Like you kind of, and I guess I had more empathy for the guy because I realized what was happening at the very beginning, and you can see that like, man, this must be like terrible when like your elderly wife thinks she's like a little girl and thinks you're like her dad or a crazy man intruding on her house or something. And then you just have to go and get her. And it seems like the way he's acting, like this happens relatively frequently. And like they go into the bakery or whatever, and the bakery person knows to like call him immediately and stuff like that. So there's clearly some frustration, and I had a lot of empathy for him throughout the whole game. And the hitting thing definitely makes you go like, whoa, and think about some things.
That's a difficult moment to process. Obviously, the reveal has happened. Then you're aware of what's happening, and you kind of look back at the context of everything. But it's still like a really rough moment. I would say it's difficult, like to just be like, what's the word? Forgive's like the wrong word. Forgive the guy, but you can empathize with the situation, or you can understand. I guess it's a game all about understanding.
Yeah, there's because this is like something every story kind of does, or not every story, but sort of challenging, morally gray stories kind of do, where it's like they always have the main character or the good guy do something like bad, and they like want to sort of play with your perception of them and whether or not you can forgive somebody for doing bad things, or whether or not you want to be like pretend to be morally pure and that you would never do such a thing. But this is such like a touchy subject in the sense of this that it's like maybe the I don't know what adjective to use here because it's not best, but maybe this is like the best example of that where it's like it really makes you consider like what you think about this character. Like I don't know, in Attack on Titan's a terrible example because of what Eren becomes at the end. Let me think of it. Like when have you seen Berserk? Am I going to spoil? No, you've seen some of Berserk. I remember this
I've
now,
read
right?
the first I've read the first couple of arcs of it.
Yes. Okay. So this is I'm talking about a golden age moment. So you'll know
Oh,
about
okay,
this.
yeah, I know the
When
Golden Age.
Yeah, when Guts accidentally kills Adonis, which is the little kid, it's like it's an accident, and you're like, oh, well, Guts is like, if you want to give Guts excuses, it's like, oh, it's just an accident, you know, and it's just, oh, do we really care about this fucking kid? And like, no, it's definitely a sad moment, but there's definitely it doesn't really harm your perception of Guts that much. You're still always going to root for him. And I think this is a very different thing of like, it's not as grandiose as that. It's actually, and it's nowhere near as hurtful as that, right? Right? Somebody dies in that scenario, or somebody's being hit here because they like won't take their medicine or whatever, and their husband gets frustrated with them. But it's still like a much harsher reassessing due to like tone and things like that. So I think it's a very interesting little detail because it also wasn't really necessary for most of the emotional resonance of everything else.
Yeah,
But I do
think
like it as an included detail. I think it's like a little nuanced little like thing.
yeah, it's still a difficult one for me because obviously, like, you know, domestic violence in general is still very common for whatever reason, and it does raise the question of, okay, what, you know, clearly capable of this, the fact that it's multiple times as well, it does show the frustration, and then it's like sticking with it. It's like, okay, is him sticking with her, putting her, going to continue putting her in danger? But I guess like obviously she's still she's like institutionalized now, so that's less of a factor. Yeah, no,
Well, it seems like she only goes to the hospital at the end because of the fall, right? And maybe I can't tell if they're like just trying to like make her happy by saying that she might go home. But we do also overhear the conversation basically of him arguing with the assume the hospital receptionist or something about it. So she might go home after this. I don't know if that's just like a wishful.
But then again, I guess it's more interpretive. I assume, yeah, she ends up in hospital because she falls down the stairs, right? And it's like that is obviously a big. That is obviously like a concern.
We don't know how hurt she is and stuff.
Yeah, we don't know how hurt she is, and also there is still also the question.
She was going to die when that happened.
Yeah, same actually. Yeah, and there is also still the question as well of. Now, I'm not saying that this is what the game was hinting at, but when something like that happens, it's like, oh, she fell down the stairs. You know, she fell down the stairs, did she? You know, there could be like a. Especially with the revelation that he has hit her in the past. I don't think it's going down that route, but
no.
Again, once you have that in your head, it's easier for that to start swirling.
You know what's crazy? I wonder how much this would light up if you were like to read this as like a gaslighting scenario where the whole time he is like forcing pills on her, and maybe she is like 25 or something, and this is all like an existential crisis she's having. I don't think that's intended or anything like that, but I think that would be a very interesting reading that you could probably put a few pieces of evidence together and have a different view of the game. But I hadn't even considered any of that, or him pushing her down the stairs or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I felt very warm at the end. Another thing, just quickly, back on the scene where he reveals, the hitting thing is revealed. She does like embrace him at the end of that, which I think is interesting because that's another thing where it's like when somebody does a bad thing to another character but they choose to embrace them, that's also a very touchy, like tropey sort of like scenario. But I did think it was very genuine here of like this is like extremely hard on everybody. This like scenario.
Yeah.
So,
no,
I like the warmth there.
I get that. I understand that. It's one of those things that I think is just difficult to It is just, I think, a difficult thing to process, and I guess that's the point. It's like it's meant to be difficult, and you know, I think it's really cool that the game has that sort of trigger warning when you boot it up, saying if at any point this game starts to overwhelm you, just turn it off, just put it down.
I immediately thought about Doki Doki Literature Club there because I think it did a much better job than Doki Doki Literature Club at not spoiling itself.
Yes, exactly. Like I just assumed, it's just going to be very emotionally intense. Doki Doki, though, they had to kind of be a bit more frank with that because it's literally got suicide in it. And like, you know, one of my friends actually didn't, you know, specifically when that warning came up, decided actually, no, I'm not going to play this because that is a triggering topic for me.
Yeah.
So which it did its job. It stopped someone who would have been very negatively affected by that scene. And I'll admit, when that scene happened, like I saw that thing and I clicked past it, like it's one of those awkward things with Doki Doki where, as someone who doesn't really have, like, I guess, triggers like that, it obviously gives away something that I think would have been this really organic holy shit moment. But it's also so important to have stuff like that for the people who do have those sorts of triggers. It's one of those sort of awkward things. I mean, the thing is, Doki Doki, I knew something was going to happen because one of my friends would not stop talking about the twist. It's the same problem I actually had when I saw Cabin in the Woods. So many people had talked about Cabin in the Woods and how it was this great subversion that by the time I watched it, I knew that something big, something radically weird was going to happen. So when it did, I was like, oh, okay, that's the radically weird thing. It didn't have that impact on me. And it's one of those, it's the constant battle of obviously being very considerate of, you know, people's emotions and mental state when they're potentially going into games and how it might affect them, and wanting to preserve the twists of the significant twists of your game. But you're right, and Roger didn't really give anything away in that sense. It just said it had some very intense scenes.
Yeah, I think it's like the emotions that are brought up probably like of somebody who would have dealt with somebody with dementia is probably very different than somebody who would deal with suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they probably have a leniency where it's like, plus you have to sort of figure it out. I think it probably is just different. It's also interesting in the Doki Doki example of, like, to make that moment as effective as it needs to like be very shocking and like abrupt and it's like a horror game, so it's supposed to be very unsettling. So yeah, there is no way around it being like that without the game's like identity being very different, which probably facilitates some sort of a trigger warning at the beginning. So true. Trigger warnings.
Yeah,
stuff.
the only thing I could think of, the only other way I could think of for getting around that is when you hit new game for the first time. It says that the game does have several trigger points, and then you can then click an option to see what those trigger points are. But that's just like, this is me thinking of a way to potentially get around that, but
yeah, there could also, now this is like a double-edged sword, but you could also, to preserve the twist, you could give a trigger warning for a bunch of stuff that isn't in the game, but the only problem then is, like, you're probably going to get less people to play.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think you should go down that route, because that is like, because if you're giving trigger warnings for stuff that isn't in the game, then you'll A, put people off, B, be misrepresenting it in the worst possible way, and also if you then use that as a way to not include one of the trigger warnings for something that is in the game, then I personally wouldn't go down that route.
I think you would include, like, you would say suicide, hyper-violence, and I guess the only other one I can think of is like rape or something. So it would be in there. So if they were triggered by that stuff, they would stop playing, but it would just also be the other thing. But then, you would off-put anybody that would be triggered by rape scenes or hyper-graphic violence or something like that when, well, I guess one of those is in Doki Doki 2, so I don't know. And probably part of the trigger warning, I don't remember it word by word, is probably about violence too.
Yeah, I can't remember its trigger warning off the top of my head. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think overall, for preserving the well-being of potential players, it is more important to have it than to not have it.
And the twist of the game. True.
It's just one of those sort of situations where that does happen, and I think there are, I'm sure we'll find better ways to do it, but I don't think as well you could just like you could bury the trigger warning in like the Steam description or something. But again, I don't think that's effective because people can miss that. You need to present it in a way that,
because usually you have to click like OK. I guess that's probably a benefit of like physical media having like the rating thing on the box and a small descriptor.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we live in a modern world. What can we say? But we're truing right now. Were we talking about something before that? Oh, the hitting stuff. I think I said everything that I needed to say on that. Oh, there was another moment where I nearly cried like 5 minutes before the end where I think it's after that where they're sort of like holding hands and they're flashing through the different like ages. And no, I think it's like a puzzle piece you have to put together, and for like certain parts it like becomes the warm colors again, and it's like them when they're young and in love in chapter 2 or whatever. I was like, whoa. and that kind of like caught me off guard. There were lots of like very, I think, emotionally affecting moments towards the end. The moment where you have to like progress across the screen, I thought the game was ending again there, and you're like going through her life, and then it's like her repeatedly sitting at the table, and then you realize you have to go backwards, and as
Yeah,
you go backwards, all the
I thought that
memories
was
like
really cool.
distorted.
As I said,
Like crazy.
as I alluded to in the Florence review, I thought in the Florence section, I thought that whilst I didn't think some of the gameplay mechanics were as quite as thematically close to what they were depicting, I thought they were overall mechanically more varied and more interesting. And they were very cool when I was thinking. Some of them were a bit awkward. Again, I don't know if And Roger was made for phones as well, but some of them definitely felt like, no, And Roger was made for Windows, Mac, and Switch.
Yeah, it's funny that all these games are on Switch, I guess because they have more motion control-esque aspects, or maybe it's just easy to get on the Twitch, not the Twitch, the Switch store, I'm not sure.
I guess it just depends. I guess it depends who you're going through publishing-wise. I mean, if you get a license, it's pretty easy to. If you get a license, Unity just supports Switch integration. As long as you have a Nintendo a license to publish on it, and I think Switch dev kits aren't too difficult to get hold of once you have that agreement. But I don't know.
Switch 2 ones were.
I don't know about Switch 2 actually. Don't know much about what's involved in getting hold of those.
That's like the reason people say that Elden Ring didn't come out yet, even though they like advertised it on the first thing, because like Nintendo wasn't giving Switch 2 kits to anybody because they didn't want it to leak or something. So they all got them like after release or something. That's a story for another day, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But true, both games are on Switch. They're not on PlayStation, which is interesting because now obviously it was definitely better in hindsight to have played these on PC, but I'd like to play things on the PlayStation more than PC, so I probably would have tried if they had been on there.
Yeah. I think Switch is generally a bit of an easier platform to get onto at this point. Like, there's the big complaint that the Switch store is just flooded with shite. So PlayStation does have a shite problem, but I think Switch, I think it is easier to get onto Switch. I'm not saying these games are shite. I'm just saying I think generally it's easier to get your game onto Switch.
Yeah, like small games like this. Yeah.
I don't know if it uses the touchscreen on the Switch. Oh wait, no, Switch doesn't have a touchscreen. What am I talking about? Switch doesn't have a touch.
I think you can touch screen on the little screen, right?
Can you? I don't actually have a Switch. I actually now can't remember. I don't think it does it.
I never play games in handheld mode. I only play games in docked mode. So I don't know. I feel like in Pokemon you can click on the screen, right? Or am I? But I'm not confident in that at all. Maybe I'm literally thinking of the DS, but I don't think so. I'm not sure.
It does have one. Okay. I'm not going mad. It does.
Yeah, because I feel like you can click on when you're in the menu, like on the home screen. I'm pretty sure you can click on stuff.
Yeah. I wonder if it actually uses the touchscreen or not. Because I searched Nintendo Switch touchscreen, and one of the first results was someone complaining that no games make use of it.
Interesting.
I think our last game that we put on Switch didn't make use of it. Maybe for the menus.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking like because you can use it like a Wiimote, right? That's like inherent to the Joy-Cons. So maybe you like use it like that. But that sounds like a nightmare. And obviously the Switch 2 has like mouse stuff now, so that would probably be good for it. But I don't think either of these games are actually on Switch 2. So, what were we talking about before that? I don't remember. The memories going back and forth and something, and me playing on PlayStation or something.
Yeah, just like I think just like the mechanics and like the controls and how like it. Yeah, how I felt it did feel like it could work quite well. Or I asked if And Roger.
I was stuck on. Oh, go ahead. Finish your point.
I'm just me wondering if And Roger had come out on like phones, but it hadn't, which surprises me because a lot of the mechanics feel very phone-like, similar to Florence in that sense.
It's probably yeah. If anything, it's probably the Florence inspiration that probably makes it like that. Oh fuck, what was I going to say? Oh, there was the thing I was stuck on, which was like it was when you reveal like the mirror, which is another great moment where she realizes she's old and not a young girl anymore. But there was like a thing where you had to like do two. Do you remember the one I'm talking about where it like had to reveal and there were like walls that you couldn't go around? Some of those were a bit awkward. Yeah. Yeah. That took me a little while. I was trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do.
The
end, I liked it, and then
the one I actually spent the longest on that I feel so silly was the stirring the soup.
Interesting.
Because I was just stirring it way too fast. the whole time, and I was like,
Oh yes, I remember this one.
why is it
You
not
had to
go?
get
Why
in the
is
blue or
Yeah, you
whatever.
had to like start at a very certain pace, but the thing is that pace didn't look like a normal pace. It looked so stilted and weird. So yeah, I was just like absolutely going for it. And it's like, no, this isn't how you do it.
There was another one which was the clock one where I didn't realize like what you had to swing the thing back. I was like trying to click it like it was a rhythm game.
Hmm.
So that took me
I
like a
did I
minute
did
to
see in
figure out.
the section on And Roger there was some criticism that some of the mechanics, whilst clever, were not very clear. Uh,
Yeah, I think that's kind of like part of it though. Like being confused. I guess this is like the ultimate defense for any sort of bad mechanic they could have. But it's like, well, it's supposed to be confusing. You're like playing as a dementia patient, a person with dementia. So that like kind of thematically rides where it's like things are confusing, but also if something was unintentionally like confusing, then that would be a great inbuilt excuse. But um, I liked the little gameplay bits. Um,
yeah, they're both like it
I think
was. Yeah, it was. They were both great. They were both very well made, and I'm glad. I think the medium is richer for their existence.
true. And what a great and informed individual that suggested you play these games, huh?
Oh,
Well, gee, so here
absolutely, absolutely.
you
Do
go.
I get to pick the
If
next
there's one
ones?
thing I'm great at, it's not playing video games, but it's knowing about video games. I know some things. I know so many things about games I haven't played. Way too much, in fact. But recently we've tried to play some games, so that's good. I think that's all my notes. I've sort of organically gone into all of them. Did you have anything specifically you wanted to say about N. Roger besides the things we've talked about so far?
No, I think that's me gone through all my notes as well.
Thought of one. The wedding thing. Did you get the vows right? Because I didn't.
No, I got them wrong.
Yeah, I don't.
And
Like I
looking back,
like you kind of remember him,
and now
but I
actually
didn't.
I mean, look, I don't think it's meant to be a thing, but looking back, actually, I wonder, is that meant to be like a sort of subtle foreshadow of things to come
Yeah, because it's weird. It's dependent on the gameplay, right? Because I saw that there was a achievement
for
for getting
getting
it
it
right the
right
first
first
time,
time? Yeah,
which means. But I feel like at some point he does have a line where he's like, "Oh, even though we struggled with our wedding vows, we got there eventually," or something.
yeah,
So I wonder if that line of dialogue is changed. Oh, another thing is when I fell down the stairs, I wasn't sure if that was like something I could have avoided.
yeah. I
So I
actually
was
didn't
like
know either
freaking out a little bit there.
because yeah, I messed it. I did a silly mess up on that one, and I was like, oh shoot.
Well, what was interesting is I messed up on like the first one a bunch of times, but it lets you redo it.
Yeah,
But then the third one you fall down. But
it
also
was the
I looked
third.
up
It was the
along
third.
play
It
just
was the third one I messed up on as well.
yeah, that was the one too. I think you just keep going until you mess that one up. I'm guessing because the long play I watched, I think, had a different pattern. So maybe he got to the fourth one or something, but they fell down and they got the same ending. So I assume that like there's not like an alternative ending where she doesn't fall down the stairs. But I guess it's possible. I don't think so though. But yeah, how's that stuff? Anything else, or was that Anne Roger and Florence? I guess.
I think that is And Roger and Florence.
Interesting.
Two
So we
very
both
good.
enjoyed our experiences with these
Yeah,
games. That's good.
two very good
Um,
additions to my 2026 digest.
True. And two great additions. They were 14 and 15 on my media checklist. I'm blasting through this shit this year.
They I mean, they make. I think they basically. I mean, I've got a couple of games that I started that I haven't finished this year, but they'll, in terms of like where they'll be on my digest, they make up spots 2 and 3 for my video game digest. I don't do an overall media one like you.
Yeah, what's number one at this point?
So the first one is a game
Out of
called
curiosity.
Cocoon from 2020.
Oh yes, I saw you review that one. I've heard of that
2023.
game.
Very excellent game.
Yes, I
Highly
remember.
recommend. 10 out of 10.
It's like a puzzle game,
Yeah,
right?
puzzle game.
Interesting. Maybe one day. I think Anne Roger is definitely the best game I've played this year. It's better than Astro's Playroom. Mr.
Oh,
Freeman,
mate. All right, we need to end this then. If that's your Jesus
Um,
Christ, what a terrible take.
I think I'm on the last world in Astrobot too. I don't know. Astrobot is probably a 9 at the moment, and Anne Roger might be a 9 or a 10. So they might be neck and neck for that one. But other than that, I think Anne Roger is definitely better than both Limbo and Inside. I think. And I think those are all the games I've played this year. I think. But also I've been playing a lot of Ball X Pit. That's a little fun game. But Um, we'll have to see. You can check back in on my February because I do the rankings at the end of every month, and then I'll do a big one at the end of the year. So these will be on the February one. We'll see. I think generally, Succession is gonna. I'm only got like 7 episodes left. I think Succession is probably better than Anne Roger, so it might not be number one, but we'll see. Who knows? Succession could shit the bed in its last 6 episodes. I don't know. But true. Oh, I've got an interesting final potentiality. Should we talk about perhaps what we might want to do next in the video, or should we do it in the call afterwards and keep it a mystery? What do you reckon?
I mean, I don't really mind. I don't think we decided on what we're going to do next. It was still mostly spitballing.
No, I got a pitch.
Oh, you've got a pitch.
Yeah, that's why we could talk about it. True. Do it. Fuck it. We'll do it. The people can comment if they make it this far, if they have an opinion. So the thing. Now we actually had some ideas. We talked about doing. What's the name of the studio? Bastion and Hades guys.
Oh,
Supergiant.
Supergiant. Yes.
Supergiant's the name. So I think we were both interested in doing those. I brought up the idea of doing the Sam Barlow games, but I'm going to put all of those to the side and pitch Kentucky Route Zero. Do you know anything about this game?
I know. I mean, I have got a bunch of friends who've played it and say it's excellent. I feel like I remember it winning awards as well. Like I am familiar with the name.
Yeah. I believe it's an isometric story game, kind of like Telltale, where you make decisions, but it doesn't look anything like it. I've seen, again, I think I mentioned Innuendo Studios, the bread tuber in this video already. But he made a very glowing video about how it like might legitimately be the best game he's ever played.
I'm familiar with Innuendo Studios. I like his stuff.
Yeah. We've definitely talked about that before, actually, now that I think about it. The alt-right playbook stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yes, he made a big glowing video about his video is about how it was an episodic release over like 10 years or something. So he talked about his journey of like how he'd played it all in little sections and how that it added to the experience or something like that. It's all finished now, as I understand, in like all 5 of its parts. And ever since I watched that video, and the visuals of that game look incredible, I think. So I would be very interested in playing that game. A potential downside is that apparently it is 10 to 12 hours. So I don't know if you are willing to engage or commit to long games to do this right now. But that is a game that I really want to play. I actually bought it the other day because it was on special on the PlayStation Store, I think. What do you think about this? I mean, this is a good idea? What do you reckon?
I'm definitely down to give it a go. Although, if we want to do like maybe a smaller game first, I have a potential pitch for yourself, especially since you said you hadn't played a lot of horror games. So there's a game that came out
scary
back in 2012 called Lone Survivor, and it's like a sort of pixel art sort of. It's been likened to like a 2D Silent Hill type game, and I remember I started it way back, but never finished it. It's definitely been on my list. It's meant to be very, very good. It's meant to be like a really good. Oh,
I spelt it Loon. That's why it's not coming up. Lone Survivor. Interesting. I think my hang up about this would be if it references like other games, or is even indicative of things like Silent Hill. I think I would probably like to be familiar with Silent Hill first. I don't think it's necessarily that it references it. I think it's more just that. Well, I don't know for sure or not. I think it's more just that it's considered like a 2D. You know, it's the same sort of vibe as Silent Hill. I think is more what it's saying. Interesting. It says it's about 4 hours. We could definitely do this. I'm down. We can take one. We could do one and then the other. We could if we do the duos, I like them to be like thematically cogent, but we can definitely do them individually or something. Or if you want, since Kentucky Route Zero is longer, you can find another short horror game that would be thematically cohesion, and we could do both of those to make.
Well, I was also wondering that as well. I'm just sort of having a look I was having a look at my backlog. I should also have a look at my wish list as well to see what's on there, to see if there's anything interesting that I've added over the years.
Now, do you think this game is on PlayStation? Oh, PlayStation 4. We like that. So yeah, I'm open to this. True. Do we want to end the video at this point and we can continue this conversation? A little bit of a teaser.
Yeah, I think that works. We've clearly got some ideas.
Yes, I had fun here, so I'm very open to continuing this. I want to play some more video games, and I like talking about them. So
I mean, I don't.
Do you want
Yeah,
to?
I like playing games. So
Sure, we know that. Do you want to shout your stuff out?
yeah. So I mean, I don't really do much of the YouTubey thing, but I still stream on Twitch from time to time. Twitch.tv/Riker7. I'm sure Kyle will be very nice and put my link in the description.
True.
I
And if I
do
don't, you better remind me.
I do bits of Let's Plays, speed runs. I do a bit of game development and other programming on there. Not super often, but sometimes. And yeah, if you want to follow me on like Backlogged and Letterboxd, again, it's like it's Riker7 again. Blue Sky. It's Riker7 for basically all the things.
Now that's branding. Now, true. I don't need to show the stuff. It's on my channel. Go watch like my main channel video, whichever one I just put up. Right? It's probably not got enough views. But other than that, I guess we'll hit him with the line. We'll see you back at some point in the future for this again. So support links in the description below. Thanks. We got 'em.